right, let me kick things off by introducing myself. My name is Anchal. I am a director of engineering at Zocdoc, which is a health tech organization. I've I'm trained as an engineer, worked in tech, in primarily healthcare tech for uh, 12 years now, of which the last 8 have been at Zocdoc. And so I've really had a front row seat to see this organization evolve and grow. I started at the company as a senior software engineer back in the day. Got amazing growth opportunities for myself to lead and grow teams as I went. And I'm currently responsible for all of our product engineering teams that work on our provider-facing experience in this two-sided marketplace. So just to give you all a little bit more of an overview of what Zocdoc itself is, Zocdoc really is a marketplace. It's a place where patients can come and find the care that they're looking for, and a way for us to connect patients and providers more seamlessly. Um, I don't know about you. I hate having to hunt down a provider, call their office, wait on hold, play phone tag, just to get that appointment that I'm looking for. And so ZocDoc, much in the way of how Expedia and OpenTable and other organizations have made other aspects of life so much easier, ZocDoc is a way for you to be able to find the doctor who is in network with your insurance, is in your geographical area, or has virtual visit availability if that's what you're interested in, and be able to see their availability and book that appointment really, really quickly. And the power of ZocDoc really comes in with the availability that we can surface where somebody else may have canceled an appointment and the provider has an open slot. The vast majority of appointments that get booked on our platform get booked for within the next 3 days. So especially where in places like Boston and really in every major city, you might end up needing to wait months to see a doctor who might be able to take you in. There's a great way to get more near-term appointment bookings and also be able to see all the reviews that that provider has, and what experiences other patients have had with them as well. It's a place with a deep mission, of course, and that has been one of the most important factors in terms of my own decision to be with this organization for such a long period of time. Here's a few patient testimonials of how ZocDoc has benefited them. And I think these are the stories that keep all of us ZocDocers coming into work every single day, virtually now through the pandemic, but getting out of bed and going after this mission that we have together. I'd love to tell you guys a little bit about our core company values. Patients first is, of course, topmost in that. We want to make sure we are constantly solving for patient problems and prioritizing their interests. This is a two-sided marketplace. My own teams focus on the provider experience, but at the same time, what is front and center for us is always how do we do the right thing for the patient? And that comes up in a myriad of different ways, whether it's making sure that we're safeguarding any sensitive information that patients might be entering in their search for their doctor or facilitating that booking, or just making sure that they have convenient, easy availability that they can tap into and take advantage of. We are very much an organization that is strong on collaboration. We espouse the spirit of together, not alone. And I think that that has been probably one of my favorite things personally about working with Zocdoc. Just the people that I work with and the sense of collaboration that everyone brings to every initiative that we're going after. We also try to prioritize the things that are important and not necessarily immediate, making sure that we are investing in the opportunities and the features that are most impactful for our patients as well as for our providers, and not focusing on necessarily immediate short-term gains across the board. We are very much an organization that believes in learning and in progress before perfection. And related to that, I think we are very much adaptable, not comfortable, and learners before masters as well. I'd love to tell you a little bit about the story of how technology at Zocdoc has evolved. And like I said, I've had a front row seat to that over the last nearly 8 years. Back when I joined in 2014, Zocdoc application was a C#.NET monolith that was something that really could not handle a ton of scale. And fun fact about Zocdoc, the Monday after New Year's every single year is always our biggest bookings day of the year. I think it's maybe some combination of new insurances kicking in or New Year's goals. Whatever it is, though, that's always when our site gets the most traffic and the most number of bookings. And relatively early in my tenure at Zocdoc, this was January 4th, 2016, we ran into an outage that became a turning point in our technology evolution. On that first Monday, we got hit with so much traffic, which is a great problem to have, that it took our website down. And it was all hands on deck. I remember that moment so vividly in my mind. Our infrastructure simply could not keep up. Every team was scrambling to make sure that we could retain functionality. At the end of the day, we ended up doing a decent job of it, but we still were unable to process about 2% of the booking requests that we had been receiving. And that marked a pivot point for us in really just going down the path of breaking up our monolith and getting to a solution that can scale much more, because clearly we needed to do that in order to sustain growth for the organization and to meet the needs of our users. So we had dabbled with microservice architecture a little bit before this, but this incident in particular set us on our trajectory to switch to AWS Cloud as a solution partner, and starting to break out some of our most critical APIs and pages, and pull those out of our monolith. And just 1 year later, our newly set up infrastructure held up successfully against even higher traffic. And we've continued to build new features in the AWS Cloud and also migrate more and more of our older features and experiences ever since. 2017, 2018 were the years when we gave our front end a massive revamp, in addition to, of course, the feature development that was happening. We refreshed our look and feel. We migrated a lot of our patient-facing experiences to React and Redux. And then in 2018, 2019 was when we had another sort of crucial pivot point, not solely as a technology organization, but really as a business. We moved from a business model that was based on a subscription that providers would pay for to a fee per booking model, which enabled us to charge providers proportionally to the value that we were creating for them, and make it much more cost effective for providers that typically had lower availability to stay on the Zocdoc marketplace. And I think another pivotal moment came along further down the road in 2020 in the early days of the pandemic. This was when, as the world around us was shutting down, many doctors' offices did as well. And amidst all of the uncertainty, it was, for me personally, an incredibly proud moment when Zocdoc shipped a new feature to facilitate free online chats with qualified nurses to help patients triage their conditions and get some advice on the right next steps, including at-home or over-the-counter treatment options. And if you remember, in those first few weeks, it was so important to have access to something like this, where patients could take care of most of their needs without necessarily needing to leave the safety of their homes and risking COVID exposure in those early days. As we went further, we were able to quickly develop and build out the Zocdoc video service, which was a video visit solution that helped connect patients with their providers. And what was especially exciting about this was that we built and shipped this much used feature in record time, going from idea to go live just within a couple of months. Whereas I think under normal circumstances, this is something that could easily have been a year-long development cycle for us. And I think the momentum that we built up, especially in 2020, is something that we haven't looked back from since. In 2021, we built out a new product, which is our intake solution for providers. It's solving a really key problem for providers to try and collect insurance card images and medical histories ahead of appointment times to make the appointment experience so much more smoother, more predictable for their patients. And we've seen some amazing adoption and utilization of this new feature during our beta launch and are actively working on scaling this out. And the innovation doesn't stop there. 2022 is shaping up to be the year of our new API product, which is a way for clients to build on top of the Zocdoc platform and cut down the hours that some of their care coordinators are spending chasing down available time slots for providers, often specialists, that they want to refer their patient population to. And in this one, we actually made a very, very exciting announcement just this morning. So you guys get to be some of the first people to hear about it. We have just partnered up with an organization called WellHive, which is a partner for the Veterans Association. And so we're going to be leveraging our API product in particular to help bring better access to care for our veterans across the United States. I think I touched on some of the stack components earlier, but I'll quickly recap those for you guys. We're very much working with AWS Cloud. We do a lot of work with C#.NET, React Redux, JavaScript, TypeScript, Scala, Elasticsearch. All of these are in broad use across the organization, with many of our individual teams also utilizing additional technologies for their more specialized needs. Jumping ahead, I wanted to tell you really quickly about some of those key pieces of Zocdoc culture that I think makes our organization a really special place to be at. Like I said, I am here for the people that I work with, and I'm blessed to work with a really talented, thoughtful, caring group that is always looking for ways to collaborate with each other and support each other and bring more convenience and ease and transparency to the healthcare experience. But let me also share with you some of the fun traditions that we have. We do an annual hackathon, which is always our most looked forward to time of the year to get away from our day-to-day work and just try out new things and learn new things. We do that with quirky projects. One of those was Zocdate. Not something we're ever going to ship to production, but it was a great way for some engineers to explore the advantages they could get from using Elasticsearch and find a way to match different people who may be searching for the same type of challenge in the same geographical area. Again, just a fun way of figuring out how we can incorporate technology into real-world projects in the future, but putting a quirky spin on them in the moment. I touched a lot on our collaboration and learning. One of the things that we do together is that as we're exploring different solutions to the problems we want to solve, we put out those solutions in a tech spec document that everyone gets to review, and our principal and our senior engineers in particular really help us make sure that we're making the right decisions, we're establishing the right best practices, and building for security, scale, and maintainability, which is a great way for some of our junior engineers to learn from the experience of others around them. And finally, I think one of my favorite examples of learning focused culture at Zocdoc is our Operational Excellence Guild. For every outage incident that we have, we conduct a blameless postmortem of what went wrong, what technology or process improvements could have prevented that issue, and then also identify action items that we can take to make our systems more robust. But we then go an extra mile and we share those learnings at a tech organization-wide meeting so that all teams can learn from our experiences and figure out how they can prevent similar issues within their parts and their domains as well. So all in all, a place that I am really excited to have been a part of over the years. And would definitely want to encourage all of you to explore opportunities with us. Diversity has been a huge focus point for us over the last couple of years, especially. But I think consistently throughout, we've had some really great practices across the board that have given so many of my women and people of color colleagues opportunities to grow in their roles as well. Um, we're definitely actively hiring for a lot of different roles. And in particular, we're trying especially to make sure that as we're reaching out to candidates, as we're sourcing candidates, we are looking at pools that are diverse in nature so that we are translating that to the organization that we are trying to grow every day as well. Um, we're definitely hiring. Please apply at zocdoc.com/careers if this is something that resonates with you. But I'd love to really just turn this time over to take questions from all of you. And please ask to join in with your audio and video to do a live chat as well. I have a question in the chat asking how big is the tech org at Zocdoc? So tech org, this includes engineering, product design, data. And across all of these roles, I think we're at about 150 people currently. Miriam's asking if we have any opportunities in the UK. Great question. I would love to expand across the pond. No, not at this time. We are very much based in 2 locations at the moment, although we do have a number of remote hires across the globe as well. We are primarily based out of New York City. We've historically had a pretty strong presence in the Phoenix area in the US. And another area where we have a strong presence is Pune in India. But we do work with a number of folks who are actually spread out across the globe, which I think more and more companies are adopting in response to the pandemic. Natalie's asking, what is the culture overall at Zocdoc? I think it's very much represented by the core values that we have as a company. And I think especially for the tech organization, I would say it's a very strong culture of collaboration and learning together. I have a question here from Veera Lakshmi about more information on the new API product that we're building. Sure, I'd love to talk about that. I think this is one of the most exciting pieces that we're working on right now. So the way that we think about the API product is historically Zocdoc developed as a marketplace offering. It is very much a patient coming to the website and searching for a provider that they need to visit and being able to book an appointment with them. But there's a lot of other people out there who are looking to book appointments on behalf of patients. So care coordinators are a perfect example of this. And especially in the health system space, this is a huge need that we've always been hearing about. And what typically happens is these care coordinators are working out of their own systems, but they still need some easy way of being able to see what sort of availability the providers might have that they can then connect the patient in their care with. And so this API offering in particular is really tailor-made for this sort of problem. It is an opportunity for health systems to bake that API into their own systems that they're working with, and be able to surface that provider list, that availability, and a mechanism for booking directly into their workflows. And the only way that they could do any of this before was just surfacing phone numbers, and getting on the call with Dr. A and Dr. B and Dr. C until they can find someone who can take their patient. So this is something that we're really excited about because I think it can be a dramatic improvement on that workflow and just a much, much more speedy way to connect patients with the care that they need. Thank you, Veera Lakshmi. Keep those questions coming. I'd love to share more about what's been going on at Zocdoc and the exciting things that we're working on. Yeah, I touched on that in passing. So the question is, was Zocdate an internal, it says event here, but I think project idea. Yes, Zocdate was never meant for an actual project. It's not a real product. It would be a huge HIPAA violation to ever make that change live on our website. This was just a fun way at a hackathon to explore how some of our engineers could leverage Elasticsearch and learn more about that technology itself. So it was really just a quirky facilitation of learning and exploration in technology at our hackathon. Nikki asks, what are some of my favorite things about working at Zocdoc? Well, there's definitely a lot. I think, as I said before, the people are absolutely at the top of the list, and I'm incredibly grateful for the team that I work with. I think some of the other pieces that I'll call out are just a strong, respectful culture that we have at Zocdoc. I've always felt very, very welcome and my voice very welcomed in this environment, which is something that has been super, super important to me. I've been blessed around that across my entire career, really. But when I read stories about what else happens at many other tech organizations, it just brings home to me the fact that this is an organization that is really rooted in strong values of respect for each other and inclusion. And I think that's definitely one of my favorite things about this org. Viralakshmi asks, are we remote first? I think we're building up to that to some extent and becoming more and more remote friendly. That was definitely something that we all adapted to very quickly during the pandemic. I do think that there has been a lot of collaboration that comes from when we get together. And so even though most of us do not go into the office 5 days a week, there's no requirement at all to come into the office. And I don't know if we ever will have any sort of requirement on that front ever. We do try to prioritize hiring among folks who are relatively close to us geographically. Which is not to say that is 100% of the hiring we do. We're definitely looking at great candidates across the board. But I think that gives us more of an opportunity to get together for events, for happy hours, for offsite sessions as the need dictates. I don't think the remote first option has been ruled out by any means, but it is not where we currently are. Great questions, everyone. What else can I tell you about Zocdoc? One little bit of an advantage that we were recently able to take of many of us being in and around the New York City area. We got together last month for just an tech org-wide picnic, which was such a great opportunity to mingle with everyone, enjoy the nice weather, do it in an outdoor setting where we can all be safe as well. It was just a great time to connect with the org that has grown tremendously. And I think one of the things that I was blown away by personally in that moment was realizing how many people we had been hiring throughout these last couple of years that I was just meeting for the very first time on that day. More questions coming in. Vera Lakshmi is asking, what does a career ladder look like for an engineer? So about, I think 5 years ago was when we first created a concrete sort of career ladder here. And we've continued to evolve it and update it every year since. So we, of course, have our individual contributor track. We have our engineering manager track. On the individual contributor track, we hire across the board, right from entry-level engineers, software engineers, to senior engineers, principal engineers. including we within the last year have had our sort of most senior engineer grow into a director level role, which we kind of carved out, especially in recognition for the impact that he was creating within the org. But that also creates an opportunity for others to grow into similar roles as well. On the leadership track, we have a program which we call the Team Lead Rotation, which is an opportunity for individuals who are looking to try out the management track to kind of get more of a flavor of it, try out that role for about a 6-month period, and decide for themselves whether or not it's going to be a good fit. And that's something that I think we've had a lot of success with. I think just anecdotally, I think about half of all people who decide to try out the leadership track ultimately decide it may not be the right fit. And I personally attribute it to too much changing too soon. So I think the Tech Lead program in particular is a great way for everyone to, or for these individuals to be able to take on incremental pieces of what might become part of their role and determine if that is the right fit for them. On successful completion of this rotation, these individuals can grow into the engineering manager role. We have senior engineering managers, directors, and at this moment, we do not have a VP, although we've had a VP in the past. We have our CTO kind of as the leader of the organization as a whole. Christiana is asking, how does a product team look like? Does every PM have a dedicated designer? And how many engineers does a PM work with on average? Great question. So a typical product engineering team has one product manager, one engineering manager, one designer, and then anywhere between 4 to 8 engineers on average. It really depends on the size of the domain that they're working with and what they're focusing on. So yeah, for the most part, we do try and pair up PMs, EMs with the dedicated designer as well, with, of course, the exception of back-end focused teams that may not have that dedicated need, in which case some of our designers will embed with them temporarily as needed to help out with any efforts that might be impacted. Lisa asks, is the team always looking for a new way to innovate and offer new features to patients and providers? Yeah, I think absolutely. And I think our experiences through the early days of COVID, building out Zocdoc video service, building out our intake product, and now focusing on the API product are amazing examples of this. But I think across the board, our hope is to continue to give power to the patient, to make healthcare more accessible, more convenient, wherever we can, and those are the sorts of opportunities we continue to pursue. One of the things that I would love for us to get involved with in the future too is improving price transparency, because I know that is a very unsolved need in the healthcare space today. And I think that Zocdoc will be well positioned to take a challenge like that on as we go forward. Christiana also asked, do product managers do project management, or is project management a separate role? I think in my experience, the project management responsibilities are usually taken on by either our engineering managers or whoever the lead engineer is, especially as you get into execution mode. I've always found that to make the most sense. On projects where I was an IC or where I was directly accountable for shipping a particular feature, I found that I always had the best line of sight on all of the details, and so that constantly made the most sense. Well, thank you, everyone. I know we're coming up on time. I will hang out here for a couple extra minutes for anyone who wants to stick around and chat. But thank you so much for joining and hearing all of my stories about Zocdoc.